another episode. Today my special guest is Vera. Vera, can you show us this outstanding piece of equipment you have on your hands? Tell us a little bit about this thing.
Yeah, shock is safe. Shock safe. What is shock safe? Gonna be on a motor. Good motor. The father camera. Tiny rope. This tiny rope. Tiny rope bodies.
Does it fly good, Vera?
No.
Does it fly really good?
Yeah. Tiny rope.
So just in case you didn't catch all that, this thing is pretty much just a stock Inductrix FPV. So if you're looking for an easy way to get into doing FPV flight, something like this would be a way to do it. You can buy just an Inductrix FPV, or even now they have the Inductrix FPV Pro. They're both very similar. The FPV Pro, I think, probably has a little bit better flight controller on there. I know it can handle the higher kV motors that they're coming out with for these a lot better, with a lot less oscillations and stuff like that. But what I did is I started with Inductrix FPV. I think you can get one ready to fly with a controller and a little screen for watching the video feed for like $180 or something now. So it's a really easy way to get into flying FPV. It's a very safe way, like if you have kids or if you want to fly in the house, especially during the winter months, it's really great to have one of these. You can fly inside, you can bounce off of things with these ducted propellers. You can run into people and it's not going to hurt. This thing only weighs like 50 grams or something like that. There's nothing to it. You can't really hurt anything with it. And it's just a really fun, tiny way to get into flying something. So if you want to get into flying, I recommend doing something like the Inductrix FPV or very similar. There's a lot of options out there now. And that's pretty much what this one was. It's got some modifications to it, but a lot of it remains the same. The stock Inductrix FPV flight controller is on here, the flight board, as well as the frame. They're both still just the stock pieces. The frame itself, I did do some reinforcements to. It's going to be really, really hard to see in there, but basically each of those little connections on the duct I've reinforced with some hot glue. So I definitely recommend doing something like that if you're going to have that stock frame. Take your props off, get some hot glue in there and reinforce each of those connections, because that is the weak point. That is where it's going to break. If you're going to build something like this, there's a frame out there called the cockroach frame, and it's like $5 or something. The frames are like $3 to $5. They're extremely cheap, even when you do break them. But the cockroach frame, it already has these reinforcements done. The frame is designed a lot more durable. So the cockroach frame would be the way that I would go if I ever feel the need to replace this frame. But the hot glue method works too. The other thing that's stock on here is the flight controller, like I mentioned. The only thing that I changed on the flight controller is the actual battery connector on the back. This is the JST2 battery connector that I soldered on the back. It allows me to run the batteries with the larger connector on the end. The constraint used to be the smaller connector that would come on these batteries. Then they started coming out with this JST2 connector, and so I did change the connector on my flight board so I could run these bigger batteries, and that really helped out the performance a lot. Speaking of batteries, this is the Tiny Whoop HV battery. These are 255 milliamp hours. Just a one cell 50C. This is the HV version, so you can charge these up to 4.35 volts instead of 4.2 volts. It doesn't hurt to just charge them up to 4.2 volts still. I only charge them up to 4.2 volts because I don't have a HV charger. But these are the batteries that I use. The camera VTX setup that I have on here is called a Stinger Pod Micro Camera VTX combo. It's basically that FX805 camera, but what they've done is they put like a linear polarized antenna on the top instead of the circular polarized ones. I'm not typically flying this thing too far away from me anyway, so I don't need the circular polarized antenna that performs better. This one performs just fine, and it's a lot more durable with this type of antenna on there instead of the circular polarized ones. The motors that I'm running here they're from newbiedrone.com. These are the gold edition motors. So the kV rating on here I think is 19,700 kV. The last little upgrade that I have on this is actually a little carbon fiber X brace on the bottom. That basically just kind of takes some of the flex out of the frame. You know, like I mentioned, these frames are not super durable, but that little X carbon fiber piece that you just slide onto the bottom really kind of takes the flex out of there, and it works pretty well. And that's pretty much the setup.